We keep talking about healthy work environments, but what does that mean? And who's actually responsible for creating an environment that most of us would deem as healthy? Well, on today's episode of Coffee and Conversations about nurse bullying, we're going to talk to a nurse who actually did just that. She established a healthy work environment in her organization, and she's going to teach us all how you can do the same. Hi, I'm Dr. Renee Thompson, CEO and founder of the Healthy Workforce Institute. Welcome to Coffee and Conversations about nurse bullying. And today we are so excited because we have a special guest. Carolyn Harmon is a nurse. She's been a nurse for almost 24 years and has truly become an advocate for a healthy work environment. And I'm so excited to have her on the show because Carolyn's going to talk to us about a program that she implemented in her organization. And she's going to give us a couple of strategies on how you can really cultivate a healthy work environment in your organization. So Carolyn, oh my gosh, thank you so much for being on our show. I'm super excited to just learn a little bit more about the program that you implemented and you know, how you got involved in a healthy work environment. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you interested in healthy work environments.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Carolyn Harmon, and I've been a nurse, like you said, for almost 24 years. I worked in the emergency department setting, and I currently work in my organization's perioperative optimization clinic. And I was doing a leadership program for my organization, and I picked a project, and the project I picked was to implement a peer support and mentoring program. We recently expanded our department and we onboarded a lot of new nurses. And so that, brings a lot of different people and different perspectives together. And so I took on this project, and while I was researching the framework for the project, I discovered just really how prevalent a lot of issues were among staff at different points in their career and throughout the whole healthcare delivery system. I mean, nursing students, new nurses to new organizations. And I decided to take that on and just so that I could make sure that we had a healthy work environment in blending all these personalities.
Right. You absolutely said it. It starts in nursing school. And I remember when I was a new nurse, I learned immediately that nurses eat their young. Well, as I've said numerous times, we don't just eat our young. We eat our young, we eat our old, we eat everything in between. But to your point, it starts there. But then when they become new nurses, and then even as they continue, it doesn't matter. You've been a nurse for almost 24 years. I've been a nurse for almost 31 years. We've all seen our share of badness out there. And I love that you were focused on peer and a mentoring support program, because when I think of that, that's actually bringing new nurses and experienced nurses together. And we really need to do a better job with that and nurture, those groups and help them to build better relationships with each other. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I developing the framework, I started with, I do a monthly email, and I have different topics on healthy work environments, also on professional development, and just supportive stuff. Like around the holidays, I did a little how to set boundaries with family and just, things that help, because it's hard. We know it's been a really stressful few years, and it's brought a lot of problems and a lot of issues to the surface. And so I decided to do that part. And then the other portion is the mentoring. And so I set up, most of our nurses aren't new nurses, but they're new to maybe my organization. And so I set up each nurse new to our department, I set them up with a seasoned nurse and that was already working in our department. And each of them had a choice in the matter. We did it, diplomatically, and that way, because we want it to be a meaningful connection.
Right.
And so
you don't want to force people.
Right.
You're going to be the mentor. You're going to be like, I know in my world, sometimes people don't want a precept, or they don't want to be that mentor. And, there's a balance between, it's an expectation that we all get involved. But then again, on the flip side, do you really want someone who says, I hate this, I don't want to do this? Oh, here's your brand new nurse. It can be a little tricky.
Yeah, so it's worked out really well. And it's nice that way the new nurse has a constant resource person.
Right.
And, I just encourage, them to make that relationship what they want, reaching their mutual goals, and just being very supportive, and the new nurse acclimating to our department. And it facilitates a really positive, relationship with, each other and just the department in general.
Right. And I know a lot of you watching might know that you have a similar program in your organization. I will tell you, a lot of you, though, don't. And there isn't anything maybe beyond a nurse residency program. I know there are some organizations, they'll have some form of they'll call it a buddy program that somebody can actually go to. They'll have somebody who's assigned to them maybe after orientation or the residency is over. But it's especially now, we talk about this great resignation, and when we look at who's leaving, it's not only the nurses who are like, okay, I'm done with this, I've put my years in, I'm out of here, I'm going to retire a little early. But it's also those new nurses who might get through 6 months and then will say, you know what, this isn't what I signed up for, I'm out. And sometimes they're leaving the organization, but many times they're leaving the profession. And I think we have an opportunity here to make sure that we're supporting them in a way that really creates an opportunity for them to stay. You work so hard onboarding these new people, and to give them that peer and mentor support, I think is critically important. We have an initiative we call Mother Bear, that really supports new people, because I always say there's nothing more dangerous than to be standing in between a grizzly mom and her cubs, okay? Because that mother bear will attack and rip you to shreds if you do anything to those cubs. And it's an initiative that really supports when you're onboarding new people. And it's not just new nurses, it's new PCTs, it's new therapists, it's new fill in the blank. And how do you protect and support them? So thank you so much for your work and addressing this very common issue, but to actually then do something about it. And I'm thinking, all right, what if you're listening right now and you're thinking, okay, I don't really have any say so whether or not we start a program, although I will challenge you, okay? All it takes is one person. But Carolyn, can you share just maybe a few strategies for anybody who's listening to be able to start creating that healthy work environment in their department, maybe?
So I know for me, when I was kind of developing this, and part of really key is identifying your own personality traits and your own personal disruptive behaviors. Because a lot of times people are just unaware. People are very quick to point the finger at other people, and, don't necessarily do that inward reflection and say, wow, I just eye rolled at somebody and I shouldn't have done that. That was really disrespectful.
Right.
And so, doing personality assessments are great. You can identify your strengths, your weaknesses. It helps you identify those in your coworkers. It helps you work together as a team. And it really was helpful for me, because I found it easier to work with my coworkers and identifying our team strengths and weaknesses, and just to be sure that I'm not contributing to any problems that maybe could arise, and leading by example in doing that. That's really key.
You are so right. Everything starts with self-awareness. And I say this all the time, and you're just so like, you're reinforcing this. You can't expect anyone to adapt their behavior if they're not even aware their behavior needs to be adapted. And as you said, Carolyn, it's so easy to point your finger at everybody else and to blame everybody else. However, turning the mirror back on yourself to see maybe how you contribute, it might not be that you're the one yelling and criticizing and intimidating and being aggressive, but maybe you're ignoring someone else who's doing that. And maybe you're standing there where someone who's been there for a long time is being really disrespectful to somebody who's new. And instead of intervening, you're sort of walking away from it. So I think it's so important that if we want to cultivate a healthy work environment and we want to create, professional, respectful, kinder workplace, that it really does start with raising awareness, and awareness needs to start right here. Yep. Take
Absolutely.
that mirror back on yourself. I love that. Thank you.
Another thing too is really helpful is using scripting when confronting a coworker or peer. I know that conflict resolution for me has been very, very hard to, how do you handle things? It's not something that's really discussed a lot. And I have found scripting helpful, and just kind of, if I'm, thinking about, okay, I want to talk to somebody about something, leading in with, hey, our relationship is really important to me. And you may not realize this. And can we talk about this? Those are great conversation starters. And that really can help set the tone for the conversation that's meaningful and productive, because,
Right.
it's really hard, and then giving examples of the behaviors that you want to talk to the person about.
Right.
That's really important.
And I think exactly what you said, it's uncomfortable. And I always think, I don't know what to say to people, especially in the moment. If somebody's said something really rude to me or they embarrass me, in that moment, I freeze. I don't know what to say. And then I either say something stupid, or, something that, I regret. But the next day in the shower, I can think of all sorts of things to say. And that's why scripting is like our superpower. It's identifying a situation that you're involved in, that you want to stop, picking an appropriate script, practicing it so that in the moment you can use it. And I love how you framed it. Sometimes it's, how do you start that conversation with someone, especially a colleague, maybe a peer, somebody you've worked with, and to say, the relationship that we have is important to me. Or, I want to have this conversation with you, but I'm uncomfortable, and it might make you uncomfortable, but it's important that we have this conversation. It's how do you start that conversation so that that person isn't right away on defense, and zinging right back. Oh, like you never do this. And they go back and forth. And I love how you framed that initial conversation using scripting. I think it's so powerful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really helpful. The last thing really is too, is, we're nurses, we're all about documentation, documenting the conversation that you had for yourself, so that, you can kind of reflect like, wow, this worked, or wow, this worked with this individual. Also, unfortunately, sometimes these conversations don't go as planned. It doesn't go, you don't have the outcome that you wanted. And so by documenting it, you have a record that, hey, I did try this. And, if you need to escalate it, unfortunately, you have, you have documentation that you did make an attempt to confront the problem and how you went about doing that.
Yeah. People, let me just say, they don't like to document. And when you say, well, did you document that? A lot of people, they get a little defensive even about that. However, it's such a powerful strategy, even if you never use it to sort of turn someone in. And I love how it's not just about documenting to get someone in trouble or using it in case you need to show that you've done something. I mean, it's useful for that too. But I like how you use documentation as a reflection. So if you have a conversation with someone and you write down, this is how this was the script I used. This is how how the conversation went, and it went well. Well, you're going to want to do that again. Likewise, if it didn't go so well, you can reflect and say, okay, this is where it started taking a turn. It was so funny. I was talking to someone this morning about a situation that she was in where somebody questioned her credibility. And she immediately went into defense mode and said, well, I've done this, I've done that. And I'm like, probably not the best approach, because it wasn't like, sometimes we defend ourselves too much. But instead, in that situation, when she reflected on it, we were just having this conversation, she's like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what I did. I went into proving my credibility instead of saying, is there a reason that you're questioning my credibility? It's a very different conversation. Definitely. But writing that all down, then you can look and say, okay, because the conversation didn't go well. So even too, I think if you document, it's so powerful because it can be cathartic for you to just kind of get that off. And I'm sure you've seen this too, where you've had an altercation with someone that didn't go very well, and you might have been dealing with this for a long time. And maybe at this point, you're not willing to take it to the next level. Sometimes documenting it can just help you to unload that stress related to that situation. So I think, yeah, documentation is a powerful strategy. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I want to sort of recap or summarize what we talked about, and then we'll make sure that people have a way to connect with you. And before I do that, I just want to thank you so much for being willing to share what you've been doing in your organization to cultivate a healthy work environment. So it's really looking at that peer and mentoring program to have something set in place, especially that when you're bringing on new people, that they're being nurtured and supported by the people who have been there, I think is so incredibly important. And also, I love your strategies. They're some of my favorites too. Self-awareness. I love personality tests. I think people love to figure out who they are. People like to take the test because you could actually have a lot of fun with it. Okay. And even, kind of joke around about it. And then it's using scripting, very practical, simple, scripting tools that you can use. And then document your experiences as a self-reflection that you can take a look. How did that go? Do I need to change anything? But then also, if you need to use it at some point, you'll have a documentation trail. And so I just think it's so helpful to everybody who's watching right now to know that they don't have to wait around for somebody to fix the environment, that there are things that they can do themselves. So Carolyn, again, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm so grateful for your hard work and dedication to cultivating a more healthy work environment. So thank you. And those of you, if you want to connect with Carolyn, we're going to have her link to her LinkedIn page in the description below. And Carolyn, again, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You are welcome. All right, everybody. As I always say, be kind, take care, and stay connected. Bye.